Hey guys, quick favor to ask before we start the pod. Obviously, I try to give my best to give as much useful information and content here as I can, and the podcast has been unbelievably well received. There's a good chance that you heard about this podcast because someone referred you to it. And so I'd love to be able to spread the message even more. The only way that this grows is by you sharing it with your friends. So if you are listening to this and you have gotten value from it, here's what I'm asking you to do. Would you be able to take a screenshot of this podcast, potentially even tag me and put it on your Instagram stories? I'll be very, very grateful if you do so. I appreciate it very, very much. I appreciate you guys listening and having all the support. So today's episode is one of our Mastermind members, Monica Moore of AMP Physical Therapy. She is partners with Shaun Astorga, and we talk a lot about that. So it was interesting. Shaun started the company and Monica just became a partner this year. And so many of us that get into private practice, we've talked about having a partner or potentially getting into a partnership. And Monica and Shaun, so far, obviously, it's been really good. When you hear Monica speak, you're going to know why. She's just an amazing person. She's actually treated my daughter, Layla. She does pediatrics, but she also does outpatient ortho. But Monica and Shaun are a dynamic duo. They have a great practice that's not too far from our practice here in New Jersey, and they are on the path to hiring more therapists, hiring admin help. But it's a very interesting podcast for you guys that have thought about partnerships, how it can actually work, how your skill sets have to be different, how you need to be able to support each other, and what it looks like when we start to have those discussions. So for you guys out there that might be graduating or in an associateship and we're thinking about being a partner, Monica gives you some great insight into what you should talk about, what needs to be on the table, how it needs to happen. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it, and we'll talk to you soon. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Business School for the Rehab Chiropractor. Class is officially in session. My name is Justin Rabinowitz, and I am a rehab chiropractor on a mission to teach you, a fellow rehab chiropractor, the exact tools and systems I've used to build my own successful rehab chiropractic practice so you can do the same. I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe. All right, we have one of our Mastermind members here, Dr. Monica Moore. And Monica, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you are the unicorn in our group, as you and Shaun are physical therapists. So just so our audience doesn't turn off the radio here, tell us a little about your practice and what you guys do, who you help, and then we'll go from there.
Yep, absolutely. So we are an orthopedic outpatient practice in Morris County. We have 2 locations currently, our main location being in Chester, New Jersey, and our secondary in Rockaway, New Jersey.
And the main type of population, so you say outpatient orthopedic, so in our world, we'd say sports injury, CrossFit, that type of athletic population that you see.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And how long have you been working with, and then we'll get into the next part of this, with Shaun specifically at AMP?
Well, AMP was opened in 2020, so I've been working with him since then, but I've known Shaun for a while before that.
Good. All right. So let's get into it. I think one of the things that could really help our audience is the idea, first, congratulations about becoming a partner at AMP, but you didn't start that way. Right. And so I'd like to kind of go through the steps on how this all became a thing. So you mentioned that you knew Shaun before. Walk us through the process of where it started and to where it is today and how that progression happened, because I think this is an option that a lot of people, specifically in Chiro world, don't consider. Just to give you an idea, in Chiro world, basically what happens is you graduate school, you go work for someone for a few years, you start doing well, and then you realize you want to go do it on your own, and then you leave and start your own shop. And now you have a lot of different solo practitioners running their own shop. And, you joined Shaun and now have joined as a partner. So I really want to go through that in this episode and talk through this with you so that the audience get an idea of the progression. So go back to the beginning. Where did you first meet Shaun? And how did this evolve?
Yeah. So I met Shaun in PC school. So we started together in 2011. We actually worked together very frequently throughout school within projects. Fun fact, 10 years ago, and I was looking this up in my history, 2013, we actually did a mock private PT clinic called Proactive PT.
Wow.
And it actually was a private outpatient clinic in Morris County.
Wow.
So funny enough, 10 years later, here we are. So that's a really fun fact.
That's awesome.
So looking back as to what we did, it's kind of the same thing what we're doing now, right? Shaun was very much into the financials and into the stats. I was more about creating the documents, the strategies, which how to identify our strengths and our weaknesses, or what we like to do. So we graduated in 2014, and we actually worked together in every outpatient clinic. We moved companies kind of together, and not really on purpose, is that we really did enjoy working together. And we found, again, just like strengths and weaknesses of each other. And it wasn't until 2020 where he opened up his company, and I came on as a contractor first. I was a contractor for about roughly a year and a half. Then I became an employee in 2000. Last year I was an employee. And then this year I became a partner. So that's kind of a little bit of outline just to give it to you.
So when he brought you on, or when you joined as a contractor, was that because he was too busy to treat patients, or he had other projects? Like, what was that first step? And the reason I'm asking is because, a lot of times chiros that start their own thing, they're not sure when to grow the company and how to do it. So how did that start for you guys?
The pandemic happened, March 2020, and I just took on different jobs. I was a contractor, with different companies. And, I knew that I wanted to settle down with one company, but how it was, and I needed to make money, was the best move for me and for the company. So, I would do some recruitment, I would treat in person and virtually. And that was a development of that.
Gotcha. Okay. So you start as a contractor, which basically means what? You just get paid per session that you treat?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then what was the transition? Like, how did either you decide or he decided to go from that contract position to an employee?
It was at the end of 2021 where things were getting a little bit busier, and it just made more financial sense and more stability for me to be an employee of in 2022.
Okay.
Also, we always had full transparency, and we had great communication between us about like what I wanted for the future, what he was looking for in the future, which I think is so important when you're trying to create a partnership, is establishing what do you really want and what are you really good at. Okay. So just working together, we knew that, he was more of a big picture person, and I was more of like an action, like go-getter, execute person. So that's why I became an employee.
Okay. And so you mentioned defining what each person really wanted. So why don't we talk through that? And again, just to give context, one of the issues that I see with people that often partner is that they just partner just because. Sometimes it's their spouse, sometimes it's their friend, but each person either has very different wants and they're not on the same page, or potentially each person has the exact same skill set. And it's like, if you have both of you, it's not, one of you is irrelevant, right? So what was it like that from what you wanted versus what Shaun wanted, and how did those, values or goals align to make it kind of go to that next step?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we both just really enjoyed different things. Like I mentioned before, I can easily go up to someone and start a conversation. It's just very comfortable for me to do that. Shaun likes to, think big picture, work with numbers. And honestly, I don't. So it was just very comfortable. We do have like a really nice friendship. And even in that friendship, you can identify the way that we would, communicate, talk about each other, talk about different things. And I think that really helped to solidify, like, we can work together, we can help create this. At that time, we were still kind of, I don't know, like dating phase per se, giving each other small roles, seeing if this is working out for the future. And we were always very transparent about what we wanted in terms of, pay, our future goals, both personal and professional, so that they were all aligned.
Okay. What, if you don't mind sharing, what are some of your goals professionally or personally and versus Shaun's, and where they are aligned or where there are differences that actually make it work?
I think we both share the fact that we want to create, a business that we are happy to be part of, right? That we want to help people, but also, grow the company where we can, live a comfortable lifestyle, whatever that means, and give our time to it. So we're both like very dedicated. And I think that's also really important. What I liked about working with Shaun was that we were both about it. It wasn't about, I can only do like 5 hours, 10 hours here. it was like, we're both in. And I
Mhm.
think that helps to reduce the stress now as a partner with operations and all of that.
Did you always have a goal of owning a business, or the right situation appeared and it was like, I really want to capitalize on it?
Absolutely not. I did not. If you would have asked me in PT school, I would have said I've never want to own a business. Even afterwards, I started being, was hired for director positions in different companies. And I found myself learning more about the qualities that I excel in. I had no idea that I enjoyed managing and that I was comfortable with, directing other employees. And I think that also helped to develop me, owning a business now with Shaun.
Okay. And so let's go into, now that you became partners, or maybe even back up a step, who approached the conversation first that it was like, hey, maybe we should even take the next step and become partners, essentially getting married, right?
Yeah. So in 2022, when I became an employee, we did have like a basic agreement at that time. So I wasn't a partner, but I was an employee, which is a big step in any company. So again, establishing roles. What do we do? What are we responsible for? How many hours am I going to give? Right. That's really important for a company. I also had other jobs that I was also a contractor for, that I, was very transparent with Shaun. Like, hey, listen, I need to, X amount of money for my expenses. This is what I need to do. I'm giving the company this amount of hours, right? I was very clear on that. Mm-hmm. What my responsibilities are, and also just boundaries, right? What does that look like for both work and personal, especially because we had a friendship for so many years. And it was really important for me to make sure that we continue to have that relationship occur. So we had that kind of basic agreement.
Can you give me an example of boundary? Like, what would that mean, boundaries? Like, when you talk through that, just so someone in the audience that is going to have this discussion with a potential partner, what did you talk about?
A big thing for me was ways of communication. So, what does that look like in terms of texting? Do we keep work through a Slack channel, through work email? Like, let's establish that we communicate.
That's interesting. What did you guys decide?
So we do like work stuff through a Slack channel, mm-hmm. and personal through text. It is hard to identify each one because it gets a little blurred. But again, I think it's important to establish things, because if you want to look back on something, it's really hard to do it through text.
Yeah, it's such a minute detail, but it isn't. And, we deal with this internally all the time. And I always wonder with my employees a similar thing of like, what is the line between asking someone to do something, or what is the personal side of it versus the business side of it? And I think it's such an interesting thing that you brought up, because nobody would think about this, right? They would just communicate. And one of the problems that happens in that relationship is that one person is like, I will not respond to text after 5 p.m. on a Sunday, and the other person's like, if it has to get done, it has to get done. And when that's not clear, that's when the disconnect happens. And that's when there's, usually the problem is it's not an immediate fight. It usually harbors resentment for a long time until there's a blow up, right?
Yeah. And I think that was important for us to establish. I know Shaun at a certain time, like it changes according to me. I'm a morning person. He is too. So great. We can get work done in the morning. If it's immediate, then we text. If it's not something that, something that can wait, we'll Slack.
Gotcha. Very cool. And so, when you guys first started speaking about the partnership, what changes, from your perspective? Is it now that it's not as much as guaranteed, but there's more opportunity to make more over the long term? Is it that you're just on paper an owner now? Like, how do things change for you? How has things changed for you? Is it more responsibility or different responsibility? What does that look like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just to go back a little bit about how we started that conversation, I think we both came up with that conclusion on our own. And then we had that conversation, like, in order to continue growing, we need to make this occur. I also wanted more security, right? If I want to dedicate more time to the company, if I want to grow, what are ways that I can do that with having more responsibility? Mm-hmm. So what has changed? Yeah, of course. There's more stake in the game. So I need to be more intentional in the decisions that I make. And that's when we had to come up with an agreement, right? Before we even get the conversation, we have to establish, like, do we want this together? What is it that we want? And then let's put this on paper. Basically, what we discussed in 2022 and what we did, but let's put it on paper. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe I'm lucky, but I really don't have any disagreements with Shaun. I don't think we've ever had a fight in the 11 years or 14 years that we've known each other. But I think it's because we have established our boundaries, both personally and professionally, and we communicate a lot before something like that occurs.
Right. How do you see going forward? Like, when you look at, usually when people partner, a lot of times it comes out of a place of scarcity. Like they partner because they're scared of doing it on their own. But neither of you guys came from that place. There's an idea of like, and this is, you've seen me preach this, the 1 + 1 has to equal 11, right? And then one of the issues in partnerships is 1 + 1 = 1, or 1 + 1 = 2. And then that's not useful either. So if you had to give me I'm going to nail you down to some specific things that when you guys looked at and said, yeah, we should take this risk, because it is a risk to become a partner with someone, just like it's a risk to get married. But the outcome, the result, that it was worth it for you guys, when it was like the potential outcome here, whether it's financial, whether it's business wise, whether it's lifestyle wise, what were those outcomes where you said, this is worth taking that risk for us when you guys looked at it?
I would say the transparency of, Shaun coming up to me and telling me, hey, this is what our, 2023 looks like, our projected 2023. We had just started working with you in the fall. So I think that was a big turning point in establishing more strategies and procedures with you in the fall. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Just, I think what I'm asking is, obviously there's a risk in becoming a partner. But when you guys looked at it and said, yeah, this is a really good thing to take this risk because the potential outcome could be greater than each of us might be able to do on their own. What were some of those outcomes that you looked at of like, yeah, this could be really special?
Outcomes. Well, I think more growth, right? Perhaps even opening up another clinic, bringing in people on. We needed someone to take on certain responsibilities in order for us to bring other hires on. And something that we couldn't do just perhaps me being an employee and him being, the sole business owner.
So talk about that, because that's a really good point, as, almost looking at it strategically, where it sounds like you sort of went into the business and Shaun's got a lot of projects going on. He does a lot of different things. And it sounds like you almost came in and said, all right, this is good, but there are some gaps here. And he obviously knew it too, which is why you are here. What were those gaps that you kind of saw and said, all right, if I can fill these in, I can be really valuable to Shaun and to the company, and I can see growth. What were those things?
I would say more like hands-on day-to-day operations, more on like the management side of things, solidifying our procedures, our strategies, our handbooks, to me, I think if we have something solidified, then it's easier for us to grow. Right. Yeah. And I know I excel in that. So it just worked out great.
And this is such a useful conversation, because I speak with a lot of, it's a two-way street in these situations. Number one, the business owner has to be open to change, right? The other side of this is in our world, an associate employee has to be able to add value to a company to the point that the owner is like, I can't imagine doing this without someone else. Right. And I think a lot of times, specifically in healthcare in our world, people join a company and they like want to become a partner, but they don't even know what that means really. And at the end of the day, sure, the business owner might not be open to it. It might be closed off. But in a lot of situations, to be honest with you, the issue that it is that the employee just isn't that valuable. And if they're replaceable, or they could find someone else to do the same thing, which, it's funny. The thing you didn't say was treat patients. Right? It was all the other things in this business that we're all just human as business owners. There are always gaps. And what you were able to do, it sounds like, go in there and say like, all right, here are the 2 to 3 things that I know Shaun doesn't have time for, not good at, doesn't want to do. If I can really do those and solidify those, like we could have something really special here. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what made me feel comfortable, in that year that I was an employee, being like, there is potential to take it to the next step. Yeah. So absolutely, I agree with that. It's a great lesson. And some, for people out that are graduating that might take an associateship, maybe a partnership doesn't work out, but I would encourage you all, if you go in to be an employee in a business, to really like keep your eyes out and say, all right, here, if I did have the opportunity, what are the couple things that I could add to this place that would add a ton of value, where someone would be silly
to not keep me around or pay me more or do whatever I want to be able to do. And obviously, you've done that very, very well. The other thing that I would observe, that I have observed, is before you became a partner, you acted like a business owner. Why? Where does that come from?
Well, I think like toward, even the entire time I was an employee, I wanted to excel. Like it's just very natural for me to, set goals for myself. Or I would tell Shaun, give me a goal. Like how, like whether it be a number per month that I'm seeing, whether it be revenue, whether it be, whatever that is, I drive myself with goals. So even part of our partnership, it's like, let's talk about quarters, right? Let's be specific. That for me is what drives me. I like that. Mm-hmm. So also identify how we work. I think it's really important. So in order for me to increase my caseload, then I had to market, had to do all these things. And I think that's what made the conversation and us establishing a partnership like so easy, because I was already in acting.
Sure. Yeah. This is such good lesson. I've heard people, and I've talked to people that are associates that don't like where they're at, and again, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's the business, but like, yeah, I don't want to put all my time into it if I'm not a partner yet, or if I don't own the business. And again, some situations I understand, but it's kind of a loser mentality, to be honest with you, right? It's like, the best reps you can get, kind of on someone else's dime, is to act like an owner, to pretend you are, to have responsibilities and KPIs for yourself that you're accountable for, even though you might get a paycheck anyway. The thing that I encourage my team all the time is, they're on payroll, but I say, listen, the best and worst part of this is you're on payroll. That whether this business succeeds or fails, like relatively speaking, you're still going to get paid. But if you've expressed interest in potentially being a business owner, it won't be like that forever. Let me tell you, before you have to like jump off the plane without a parachute, why don't you do it here? Like, hold yourself accountable to getting the results, to getting the even though you're going to get a paycheck, great. That's an added bonus, but at some point you might not. And, from day one, when you came in our community and Shaun came in our community, you were there as much, if not more than he was, participating. And, if no one knew, they would say it was your business. And that's exactly how it should be. What for you, what would you say is your three biggest strengths?
Three biggest strengths, I would say, are I'm quick to take action. So, something needs to get done, I'll do it. I'll find a way, use my resources. I'm great at developing relationships. I think I excel in that. I can go up to someone, let's be friends. We share something. I feel very comfortable with that. And I just put myself out there. I think my background of being in performing arts, I feel very comfortable presenting myself, talking to people. I think those are like my three biggest strengths.
So it's interesting. At the time of this recording, yes, last night we had our student course, our EYSL course. And, it's people that haven't started yet that it's like, just get this thing off the ground. Let's have just proof of concept. And literally those three things that you just talked about are the three things I told them. Right? That if you're quick to take action, bias towards action, if you can develop relationships, and if you're comfortable putting yourself out there, but even if you're not, if you do it anyway, it's almost an impossibility that you don't get the business off the ground. And what I sort of told them was, listen, I'm here to just provide some of that structure for you, encourage you. But if you can just do that, it's an impossibility that the business won't get off the ground. Now, at some point, we need other skills to scale and manage people and all of that. But the three things that you just mentioned, if there's a student out there or a new grad or a new business owner that's like, what the hell do I do? It's like those three things: be quick to take action, be able to develop relationships, and be comfortable putting yourself out there. And even if you're not, do it anyway. Those are the three things. If you asked me, gun to my head, what are the three things we need to get a business off the ground? Those are the three things. So I think that's absolutely incredible advice. You mentioned the interplay between you and Shaun, not only having a personal relationship, but if go through like an org chart as far as, marketing, sales, operations, and finance, because that's how we like to talk about a lot of things in the mastermind. Where do you excel specifically in those, and where does Shaun excel?
So I would say I will do, let's see, Shaun will be like finance. So anything with money,
Numbers.
calculations,
Yep.
numbers, like amazing. I just refer to him. And I trust him 100% on that. I would say both marketing a little bit. I think he excels perhaps in more of the social media aspect of things. I'm more like face-to-face, conversations, because you have to also think about how we're going to communicate with others, right? I would say anything like problem solving wise, Shaun definitely excels at it. So I would I don't know what that would look like in that org. That's how I would think of it.
Do you do most of the sales conversations, or you guys both share those?
I would say I do most of them, but Shaun does a few. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, again, I'm giving people a recipe for success here. As a business owner, so Shaun and I are kind of similar, very similar actually. We both are kind of good with, we call it right side of the org chart. We have a lot of other opportunities that we're pursuing. We have our hand in a lot of different pots. The thing that we need in our businesses, our brick and mortar businesses, is someone to sort of live on the left side of the org chart, right? And so that's marketing and sales. And so you, my friend, are the dream person for someone to have, because you're good at building relationships, you're good at getting out in the community, and you're good talking to people, you're very friendly, and you can sell and convert people to do that. That's what we need. That's what has to happen. And so if people are out there and looking for how they provide value, it's like you need to go find Monica and just hang out with her and just learn to be her, because that is it's so valuable. Like, but that's what it is, right? Because and think about it, right? Because people are listening to this. I get it all the time about partnerships and all of that. If you were someone good with finance and good with numbers and good at social media, but didn't really like doing sales calls or didn't really like going out and meeting people, well, there'd be a big void in that company. And this is where you build a company that's so inefficient that you have two high level people, air quotes, but the business stinks because you have two people that are good at the same thing and no one kind of counterbalances. And so I think it's a really interesting case study that, as I've learned more about business of why something like this works, as I probe you more, those sort of things, whether you got lucky or it was intentional, that's why something like this could possibly work.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you a hard question. You said you've never had a fight. You've said everything's been good. You've been friends a long time. What would it be long term that you guys are working towards that could derail it? What could derail the partnership? Because it's a relationship.
Oh man. I don't know. When we were doing the agreement, we had to have conversation as to like, what happens if we don't agree, right? What happens if the business derails? What happens if someone, dies? We had to have those conversations because again, like you said, it is a marriage. And what could be something that could, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. That's a hard question.
I know. That's why I asked it. No, it's all good. So you guys have two clinics similar where they're both in gyms currently?
Yes.
What's the growth plans 2025? Where's AMP?
Oh man. Well, AMP is I would say definitely a couple more clinics. Mm-hmm. More PTs. So we're in the process of hiring right now, both for admin and, therapists for this year. Just like, making difference in the world. Love it.
So Monica, any questions I didn't ask you that I should have asked you? I know you're prepared for our call.
How do you know I'm prepared?
I can see you checking your notes.
I know. Well, I like to be prepared.
See?
No, I think you asked all the questions. I think things to do before a partnership that helped us a lot was to make sure that we were, we had all the intentions written down, our values, our responsibilities, our roles, what would happen in case when this thing happens. Let's have that conversation now, right? Same thing like when you're getting married, right? I had to have a conversation with my husband. Like we bought a house before we even were engaged. Mm-hmm. What does the future look like for us? So I think it's important to establish that just to make the future less stressful.
Let me ask you this question, because I get it oftentimes with students that are still in school and they ask me about doing a partnership. And please feel free to disagree with me. One of the things that I tell them is that they really, really, I encourage them to go work either as an associate or by themselves for a period of time, to get their feet underneath them, to see what they like, what they're good at. And then if it works down the line, that's when you should come together. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, that was my journey. So I grew a lot. I wanted to increase my skill set. I wanted to work with different populations, and, being a staff PT and eventually being director of different clinics really helped me to identify what I excel in. Because I didn't know. I went to school for 3 years. I was a dancer for my entire life. So I really didn't know how I would thrive, right, in the rehab community, or what that looked like. So I think that really helped to establish where I wanted to be, and also to help me feel happy doing the things that I want to do. If I were to do this by myself, I probably wouldn't be able to, I'll be very stressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, someone like you, so Kaylee on our teams, she's similar, very outgoing, bubbly. And one of the reasons, she could open her own clinic tomorrow for sure. But she also said to me, basically, I feel I like being around people, and, kind of being by myself early on while she would figure it out. Not ideal, which is one of the things that attracted her to being a part of something like ours in the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's great when people, they start early, they start that mentality, even as students, right? They learned business. Unfortunately, I just didn't have that opportunity. So, it's just a very different journey. That just worked out for me. So when we did decide to become partners, again, it was just a very easy decision.
Love it. Monica, where can people find you on social, on your business website? Where can people find you?
Yeah. AMPperformancerehab.com. And you can find us at social AMP Performance Rehab.
Love it. Monica, I just wanted to say personally, you guys were the first PTs that gave me a chance, which is interesting because I've mentioned my journey has been learning from PTs, and I created our group because there wasn't anything that existed. But obviously, I'm very well aware that we're the same people, just with different letters after our name. And, the main thing for me, it's very easy to see how you've been so successful. And with Shaun, very amazing, both two amazing people with different personalities, and it's great to watch. But your energy even on Zoom is like palpable, and so it's easy to see why patients would want to come to see you. It's easy to see why someone like Shaun would want to partner with you. And just on a personal level, I'm so appreciative that you are in our community and a valued member of it. And so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much, Justin. You have been invaluable. I mean, honestly, I think I tell Shaun all the time, it was the best decision we made. And we couldn't be here without you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Monica, thank you so much. And we will see you in the Mastermind and on all the live calls.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you found this content valuable, here are 4 ways I can help you for free. 1, grab a copy of my free guide, The Rehab Chiropractor's Checklist. You can get that at go.drjustinrabinowitz.com/guide. That's go.drjustinrabinowitz.com/guide. 2, go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at Justin Rabinowitz, where I post business content. 3, subscribe to my weekly newsletter by sending me an email at coaching@strivetomove.com. And 4, leave us a 5-star review so we can gain access to more influential people and bring those lessons back to you.